Well, we're more than a week into the presidential vote recounting process, and the numbers appear to be not much different than they were the first time. So how does the recount process work? Who can initiate it? And how could it potentially impact you? Here with what you need to know about all of this is Shari. So as we say good morning, glad you're here to talk about this, because a lot of people talk about recounts, but this is really taking place. It's really happening. So who can initiate it, and how can it be determined that it's okay to do it?
Well, as you know, our voter rights are protected under the U.S. Constitution, but most of the rules that govern how a vote is going to take place in the first place and how a recount is going to happen are left up to the state. And there's some variation there. So the first question becomes who has standing to ask for a recount. And in most states, it's either the losing candidate or a voter or group of voters just like us. The next question is, what do they have to do? Most states, you have to actually file a petition, but in a few states, a petition will automatically be filed if the vote is very close. So Florida happens to be one of those states. And the petition has to include allegations of why a recount is necessary. So that usually is going to look like there was fraud, there were errors, there were illegalities or improprieties. Those allegations don't have to be too clear. And then the next thing to do is file it. Some states require a filing fee, some require a bond, and others will actually refund that cost if it's proven that there was some kind of a problem with the vote.
Well, who pays for it? Is it taxpayer money?
The taxpayer money pays to have the recount actually done, but the candidate normally has to come up with some kind of a fee. Sometimes it doesn't cover the whole cost.
So what happened in this case?
So here we have in several states, including but not limited to Wisconsin and Pennsylvania and Michigan, where the allegation was made that there was potential hacking, that there were some improprieties, and then of course the petitions were filed or in the process of being filed, and then there were challenges to those petitions, which happens in the federal court. So that's a little more uniform in terms of the outcomes. But that's what's underway right now, is those challenges. And of course, this whole process has to be wrapped up to coincide with the Electoral College vote and counts by December 19th.
So what happens next with that deadline looming?
That's a good question. So we've got these recounts going, and the way they're happening depends on the state rules. So some states may say, let's just do a sampling of a recount, and if we find any problems, we'll do a broader recount. Sometimes they're looking at the equipment. Sometimes they're comparing voter registration lists with actual votes, just to make sure that there wasn't fraud, voter fraud. The cases are proceeding in terms of the challenges. In fact, we've got a hearing just this morning. And then even the outcomes of those cases and the recounts can be challenged again, so who knows what will happen. In order for it to actually impact the vote, though, Roxanne, it's got to tip the scales of the actual popular vote so that either 37 or more electoral votes get changed. That's not likely to happen, but the votes in some of these states was really close, like 10,000 out of several million. The real focus will be to show, hopefully, where we can improve our voting system. So, for example, we know in Pennsylvania there's no paper trail of the votes. That's maybe something we want to improve.
To be continued.
Exactly.
Thank you, Shari, for your info. Appreciate it. Let's send things over to weather.
Thanks a lot.